Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us today for the next installment of our Women in AI webinar series. My name is Victoria Papalian. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Udacity, and I'm thrilled to be here today with Harsha Anand Almad. Harsha is the Global AI Academy Lead for Accenture LearnVantage. She's responsible for driving AI education and transformation for the Fortune 500 and beyond. She brings over 17 years of global experience across the US and Europe and across industries including energy, retail, life sciences, and technology. She is driven by a passion for innovation and has helped empower over 40,000 professionals in Accenture's AI network. Interestingly, though, Harsha comes from a non-traditional background. She studied psychology and sort of stumbled into the world of data and AI. She is truly living proof that there is a place for everybody in the world of technology, especially as the marriage between human and technology continues to be a prevalent part of this dialogue. Beyond her work at Accenture, Harsha represents the organization at prominent external events, including the UN's annual conference, CII Innovation, and the Women Economic Forum. Harsha, thank you so much for being here today and for sharing your wisdom and experience with all of us.
Well, thank you for having me, Victoria. I think we're going to have a lot of fun and a lot of interesting conversations, so I look forward to it.
Yes, sounds good. Well, let's jump right in. Why don't we talk, we start by talking a little bit about your personal journey and how you ended up where you are today. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and what it is that you do at Accenture?
Right. So, as you mentioned, I'm the Global AI Academy Lead at Accenture LearnVantage. And in my role, I'm responsible for helping skill and scale our clients, sharing the secret sauce of data and AI skilling. So I have the privilege of working with some of the brightest stars at Accenture, Udacity, and other colleagues to bring some of the best recipes for AI literacy. Having said that, I happened to stumble upon in the world of data and AI, like you mentioned. So for the most part of my career, I have been a talent and change consultant. And I was born to be a consultant. I mean, as you know, I was in my school library and I was flipping through the World Career Guide, and I just was like, consulting, that sounds interesting. It's got problem solving, it's got working with the clients, it got globe trekking. That sounds like Harsha. And I've been very blessed that over the last 17 years, I've worked with clients across regions, across geographies on multiple transformations to do that. And as I did that, 5 years ago, I stumbled into the world of data and AI, where I was supporting a massive change transformation for a financial services client in data and AI. And I was humbled by how little I knew about that field, right? I mean, as consultants, you often think of yourself as analytics experts and you're able to come up with solutions. But I discovered a new world about how it takes a village to really build a data and AI community. You've got the data scientists, you've got the data engineers, you've got truly the data product team, and the combination of all of that results in some amazing products and services for our clients. And that sounded very interesting. And with amazing support from my leadership, I was able to learn in this space and then formally transition over just to work in data and AI. So it was my passion, which kind of got me in the world of data and AI. I started off working on talent transformation programs, and lucky for me, I had the opportunity to run a couple of internal Accenture transformations, CEO specified. For example, a few years ago, Accenture was on a mission to become a data first organization. So I served as the change lead in that program. Learned a lot about how we can drive internal transformation for Accenture. And let me tell you, oftentimes Accenture is the hardest client, if you will, because you work with some of the smartest people, and it's a massive organization, right? So I learned a lot from that talent transformation experience. I then drove a program called as Turbo.ai, where I helped skill and scale the global AI hub at Accenture. So working through these talent experiences, I learned a lot. And in that journey, I then had the opportunity to start learning and skilling. And for the last 4 years, I've been working in the AI Academy space. So it's been, I mean, reinventing self kind of a journey, and I just love it.
That's awesome. And we've worked together a bunch since Udacity has become part of Accenture. And I know that what you do is multidimensional, right? There's the data and AI upskilling and technology piece of it, but there's also the sort of working with clients. There's the true education part, and then there's this transformation that happens at an organization. Can you talk a little bit about what inspired you to work at this intersection of data and AI education and then client transformation?
Yeah, that's a great question, Victoria. I mean, this is my purpose, right? Like I mentioned, I am at heart a consultant first and very client centric, right? We want to add value to our client, and I feel and I strongly believe that the people component is truly a key lever which needs to be enabled. Technology works with human in the loop. Let's not forget that, right? And I just felt that there were not many people working in this space. I was interested in learning a little bit more about this space and trying to help bridge the gap, if you will. And then with generative AI and the hoopla with ChatGPT gave us more and more opportunities, right? The market grew and the opportunities and the client engagements kind of grew, if you will. I think what attracted me the most is the problem statement. Like I said, I love solving client problems and transformation. And change management and the behavior and the mindset shifts is such a critical path when you're looking at data and AI transformations. So that problem statement was massive, and we worked with many clients to help solve for it. And you keep learning, right? To just share an example, one of our clients is S&P 500, where we've been working with them to help deliver generative AI skilling for throughout the organization, across the organization, 35,000 people globally, their top 200 leaders, working with the people managers. And it's been a tremendous journey. And it all started with a lot of support from the client leadership, a lot of, yes, this is the future and I want to work towards it. So it's really exciting to work with such forward thinking clients and help make those transformations. So I think that engages me and excites me to keep working in this space. And there's a lot to be done still. So there you go.
Yeah, of course, of course. And what the sort of jobs to be done or what is to be done is constantly evolving, especially in the world of technology. And thinking back on your career, you started, you studied psychology, you ended up in this data and AI world at the intersection of these technologies and education and client enablement. Can you talk about some inflection points? There must be a handful of inflection points throughout your career as you sort of pivoted and evolved to sort of meet the moment. Can you just talk about what some of those inflection points were and what they looked like for you and how you knew what the next thing was for you and that felt how you knew that felt right?
Yeah, I'll speak about this, in three levers, if you will. Number one is the client impact, right? Because that's super important. Like I mentioned, the first financial services client where, I learned about data and I helped transform that. The value that we added to the client. For example, how do you look at data products and help a financial analyst service their clients faster, cheaper, better? And helps add to the client's bottom line, sometimes in case the top line as well. That's fascinating, right? Today, with the power of generative AI, you can actually bring in efficiencies and profitability up to 40% in the business. That's massive impact. That's money that you can, reinvest in the company towards learning other activities or give it back to the shareholders. That I thought was super interesting. From an individual perspective, if I think about it, people now have a chance to reinvent their career. Look at me. I was doing all this amazing work in change and talent. And now with data and AI, one of my mentors said, I've added 10 years to my life, my career, if you will, right? And working at the mist with the smartest people, learning new things, right? So I feel my career is reinvented. And I can surely say that from many of our clients' perspective as well. So, for example, with generative AI, you can see customer service reps using the power of Gen AI to be able to service their clients faster, cheaper, better. They're doing higher order tasks, and everybody wants to do that. So I think we have this great opportunity to move forward in this, right? So those are some of the inflection points. I must also mention the software elements around, which are very important as well. For example, uh, technology also has the power to even the playing field. We're going to talk about women in AI as well. And I genuinely believe that there's several topics where, with the help of technology, we're able to really level the playing field for be it gender, be it people with special abilities, neurodiverse candidates, etc. So I feel that taking advantage of such technologies is a must. I mean, this is like the how do I, like the internet in 1995, right? It's that moment, and you need to latch on and ride the wave.
Yeah, it's super powerful. And so these waves, the internet being one of them, generative AI being the current, these waves happen, and there are people who for whom it clicks, right? They get it, they get the impact, and working with that technology or adopting that technology into day-to-day practice, it feels natural. And for others, it's more of a challenge, and maybe part of the challenge is that people don't quite understand the true potential of such a technology or the best way to implement it. So with that, there comes a lot of misunderstanding around what a technology actually is and what it can be used for and what it shouldn't be used for. Can you speak to any of the sort of prevailing misunderstandings around AI today, and how you're seeing those misunderstandings maybe show up at client sites, and how we should think about sort of shifting that narrative?
Right. I'll talk about a couple of them, which they're interesting. I mean, the number one is people often overestimate the AI capabilities. It's like AI is going to solve for world peace, right? That's not happening, right? Um, I also think that you're trying to aim, like, with AI, solve for problems which can be solved through other technologies or other capabilities. Let's not forget the discipline of data scientists, data analytics, machine learning has been there for eons, right? ChatGPT or generative AI is not going to be the magic bullet which solves all of them, right? So let's not overestimate the power. I also see that people feel that oftentimes that AI will make decisions automatically, right? And again, let's just remember that there's always the human in the loop, and we need to employ the right responsible AI principles, etc., to make sure that it's not like AI is going to be taking over the world. So I think overestimating AI capability is definitely one. The second one is with regards to the fear of job loss, right? And while I feel that, yes, with every technology, not just generative AI or AI, right, there will be a certain amount of displacement of jobs, but there's also recreation of new jobs. Case in point, prompt engineering. This job did not exist 2 years ago, right? But now it's evolved into a proper discipline, paying handsome amount of money. I just want to go back, say, 20 years ago when some of us might remember a role called as librarian, right? If you're old enough like me, we used to go to the library and we would, have this librarian person help us sort out the right books, etc. And this was a pretty prestigious job. But today, Google is your library, or you've got search engines everywhere that you can acknowledge, right? So the key learning is that you need to move with time, and technology is a great conduit and facilitator of adding value. So I think having that mindset that, yes, while some jobs might be created, lost, a lot more will be created is there. And the other thing which is important in terms of misconceptions is that you can just blanket use AI. It's extremely important that your AI framework is solid. They've got principles of responsible AI, right? You've got the right methods and capabilities in which it's done. So I think these are the misconceptions which people have, that I've seen. And in terms of how we can overcome them, I think that we need to, as a group, start shifting the narrative. And there are some amazing narratives, Victoria, which just touch your heart, right? Like, for example, if you look at Khan Migo, they're using AI to help kids learn faster, right? Better, and coach them better. They're helping tutors become better tutors, if you will. If I jump into the field of medicine, right? The cancer detection, with the help of machine learning AI, you're able to detect life-threatening diseases with a lot more accuracy. And for someone who goes through such a horrible experience, it's really a big boon to humanity, if you will. And with Accenture, I mean, just yesterday we announced another partnership with HCG group in India, where we're doing advanced research with our advanced AI COE to identify and detect such diseases and help find a cure faster. So there definitely is a boon to humanity as well. So I think through these misconceptions, we need to let the light shine and have change the narrative, if you will.
Yeah, yeah. And how you're talking about uh, AI and adopting AI within organizations and for individuals, you're really talking about like a scaled implementation, something that
Right.
everybody, it's a wave, right? And everybody needs to participate or get on the wave in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, go ahead.
Now, I
Were
was just
you-
going to say, every employee in today's world is a data and AI worker, whether you believe it or
Exactly.
not. I mean, if you have a desk job, you are impacted by data and AI, and you will continue to be impacted by it, right? I mean, for me, it's as basic as like looking at Excel, if you will, right? Like it's part of your job mostly, right? Now, having said that, some people work at the core of it. People who are data engineers, data scientists, etc. So they are the data core people, right? Data natives. But you've got consumers of data as well. They might not need to know everything about it, but sufficiently to be able to execute their job in a much more efficient manner. So that's something to be figured out.
Yeah, yeah. And how does that concept play into what you call AI literacy? The
I'm
concept of
sorry.
that the concept that there are practitioners, people who are just hands on keyboard using these technologies every day, and then there are other people in an organization who need to understand it enough to be able to work with those people, but maybe don't need to be practitioner level proficient. Is this sort of like the term that you refer to as AI literacy?
Right. So within Accenture, we believe in the total enterprise reinvention, and at the heart of it, you've got the digital core, right? And data is a part of it, security is a part of it, right? But let's just zoom in on data. If you are part of the data digital core, you are working as a data engineer, data scientist, data visualization expert in the service of coming up with products, platforms, and services which the consumers can use. For
Yep.
example, I've got a client, it's a luxury client in the products arena, and they've got a core team, data and AI team, which comes up with new products. For example, what's the right pricing for their product, right? How can they capture the right customers, right? How can they service the customers better, right? So that core team comes up with the right products, if you will. Now, it's very important that if I'm a marketing manager, I understand that product. How, for example, the pricing tool, I need to understand how do I leverage this pricing tool to be able to come up with better offers for my clients, if you will, right? Now, take another industry, financial services. Again, the same thing, right? Close to 30% of financial services like companies, they want to come up with new offers or schemes for their target audience, right? So with the power of data and AI, the digital core, they can come up with these products which can be used by these people, but the consumers, right, to be able to use that. The best way to do it is something we call like the hub and the spoke model, in which the data core team is able to work with the business users through education, training, keep updating them in terms of, hey, this is how you can come up with these new dashboards and review the information. This is how you can leverage, for example, these new assets and tools to be able to service your clients, etc. So you have to set that up through a change management process and, of course, through digital data and AI literacy as well. But the hub and spoke model becomes very core for this transformation to work.
That makes total sense. And sort of, it seems like what you're describing is sort of like the strategy by which you would go about implementing a transformation like this,
Yeah.
one in which everybody in an organization is involved and playing some role. You alluded to it just now. Another component of this, it's not just like setting up all of the infrastructure and then walking away. It's there's a huge human component to this and making sure people are comfortable with what's happening and are part of the change and see themselves in that future state. How do
Yeah.
you're calling this change management? I think it's called different things different places, but I think everybody can sort of rally around the term change management. In practice, what does that look like? How do you get people at scale on board with something? Um,
Yeah, that's a great question, Victoria. And I like to share a client example. Um, so I was working with um, so I was working with one of the leading life sciences clients who had set up a global in-house center in India in Hyderabad. And they actually made tremendous investments, right? They brought in the infrastructure, they hired best-in-class data science scientists and people to work on the data products, etc., right? And a couple of months later, I got a call saying that, can you come visit us? Because, we've got this, but we're not really, people are not using the tool. I mean, we've got this best in class tool, but people are not adopting to it, right? And they're not learning about it. And then, after a bit of investigation, we found that while they'd done a great job of investing in the technology, literally nobody in the businesses knew that this was what was happening, right? There was no education, there was no engagement about these products and services. So this amazing AI COE that they had set up was, on its own doing things, right? So imagine the hub doing their own things and just shooting off one off, hey, do you want this report? There you go. Rather than working with the businesses to understand what's your problem statement, what kind of products and services do you need to be able to do your job better, right? So, for example, if you're working in a patent creation, right? So, how can you perhaps use the power of data and AI to help accelerate the process or drug discovery, if you will, right? So that was the missing link. And the way we addressed this, number one, was with stakeholder management and leadership buy-in. This was a super important program, CEO sponsored. So we got the right stakeholders involved from the AI COE, right? But backed by the IT leader, but also the various businesses. We had them participate in a workshop. We listed down saying that this is the vision with which the AI COE is set up. These are the services it can provide for you. Now, and based on your business needs, right? Does this meet your needs? And or what else can we add, right? And that kind of set off the process of the hub and the spoke model. Then they identified, oh, well, this is good, but this is exactly what I needed and all that. And then with change management, communications, etc., I guess the wheels started spinning and, the adoption kind of went forward. So that's the way in which this transformation kind of started.
Yeah, and I'm sure there are thousands of client examples. I know you work with so many clients of where this has been implemented and gone well. Uh, you mentioned earlier in the call, I think affectionately, that Accenture is sometimes the hardest client, and because of the incredible people that are part of this organization. Can you talk about what this looks like at Accenture? I know you work also internally and work towards the same things you're describing with external clients. You know, uh, Change management, technology adoption, integrating technology into business solutions. Like, what does this look like for you at Accenture?
It looks, I mean, honestly, amazing now that we are past all that, hard work that we did in trying to figure it out. But I'd like to share a story with you and a CEO ambition. About 18 months ago in June, our CEO made a public statement that we're going to invest about $3 billion in AI and we're going to invest $1 billion towards AI skilling. I mean, I just want to commend our leadership to be making such amazing investments, which are yielding great outcomes for our clients and our people. But when you make this statement, then the question is, how do we get started, right? Like, all right, we want to start skilling people on data and AI, but what roles? And there was a lot of discussion. We got the best in class leaders from different domains, the data scientists, data engineers, visualization experts, etc., along with our amazing HR learning team experts, etc., and said, all right, what are the key roles that we need to figure out? And through this, we came up with our R12 or 12 role models for Accenture. So something we follow over here is everybody in data and AI, like I mentioned, it's a village. They need to have a very clear role, right? What am I expected to do if I sit in one of these boxes? What's my role expectation? What are the skills that I need to be able to sufficiently, stay in this box, right? At a beginner, intermediate, and advanced proficiency level. What are the trainings that I need to take to be able to build my proficiency, if you will? And based on that, what kind of projects and client support services that I can provide. So I led a program called as ATK.ai because our commitment to the street was that we're going to scale our data and AI practice to 80,000 people and working. So working closely with our HR, learning, and our internal senior leaders, we formed this R12, talent structure, if you will. And through that, we went ahead and, came up with understanding the right skilling. I mean, we worked with our research teams and we looked at the market assessment. What are the roles which we are going to grow? What kind of skills will our clients needed? And a couple of themes emerged. For example, our clients are looking for, of course, domain expertise, but they're also looking for industry and functional expertise. So it's very clear to us that we need to invest in industry use cases. We need to make sure that we're able to speak role specific language. For example, if I am a supply chain expert, that's not good enough. You need to know supply chain expertise in retail, right? Like that left click becomes super critical to our client. And we did that. And through that, our programs have evolved and it's been a great learning experience. I mean, we also had our moments in which we learned and we corrected ourselves because it's a journey for all of us. Right. But I think it's been a tremendous journey and it continues on.
Yeah. So really interesting to hear how at Accenture, these are the sort of steps to get started once you make a bold statement like the one Accenture did publicly. Is this sort of the same framework that you would follow for a company you're working with and an external client beginning their AI transformation? Are these sort of like the same steps that you would take to launch that initiative?
Great question. Yes and no, in the sense that Accenture is I mean, we are an end-to-end a technology, consulting, operations business, if you will, right? So our business is different, and our clients are very unique. For example, if I'm working with a telco client, I would want to come up with a talent architecture, talent structure, which is specific to them, right? So I wouldn't necessarily look at it this way. Having said that, there's several elements that I would still borrow in the R12 framework. For example, you still need to have a data product team who will need a data scientist, a visualization person, so on and so forth, right? I think the steps which my mental map tells that we need to keep very clear is number one, keep in mind that everybody's role, if you have a desk job, like again, is impacted by data and AI. You need to figure out who are the people who are sitting in the digital core and who are the people who are sitting in the business, and then I guess tweak the amount of learning that you want to give them, right? So keep that in mind. Second learning is that you need to make the learning very role specific. People are extremely busy right now, right? Like the demands are really high. So if there's a training which is not relevant for me in the next 15 minutes, I'm going to switch off, right? So when you speak with them, when you train them, have a very persona-led learning profile, learning journey, if you will. Um, Value realization, very important, right? In fact, in our total enterprise reinvention, we start with value realization as the first step, meaning that whatever you're doing, you are looking at either adding to the top line or the bottom line, right? You're able to impact that. So very important that we keep that in mind as well. Responsible AI and then talent transformation. So I would say these are more or less the framework and the steps that we follow in terms of driving the AI transformation journey.
Yeah, makes sense. The personalization points totally resonate. And you're constantly operating against a time constraint, right? So you have to make it as relevant for that person, as close to that moment in time as possible. So it makes total sense.
Thing is, people don't have that much time. And just think about it, right? Like typically people will have 40 hours of annual training. Anytime that you're not doing that, I mean, it takes away from your productive time, if you will. Albeit if you do take the training, you're a lot more productive. Some disciplines need a lot of training. For example, prompt engineering. And I want to emphasize this point because I understand we have a lot of technical people on listening into this webinar. It's not just good enough for you to take the training, it's good enough. It's important that you're able to participate in projects and demonstrate that level of proficiency. Very important. So if you do take 40 hours of training, you do need to also work on projects. You need to have a mentor or a coach who is able to correct you. Hey, this was okay, this was not okay. You also need to have a learning community, because I mean that's something which I love about the data and AI discipline as well, because you're always constantly learning from each other. So you need to engage with the right community. So it takes a lot to for a learner to actually absorb and become that highly productive person, which means that you have to free up the brain space as well, right? So it's important that you're able to make it as easy as possible for the learner to then chart the journey.
Getting this right, or getting this wrong rather, is a common sort of pitfall for companies. Like they the expectation of time commitment to learning is probably off in some way. And that's where you would come in and say, and guide them in the right direction. What other types of pitfalls do you find existing in organizations looking to embark on a transformation like this, or an upskilling initiative like the ones you're describing?
Right. So from a people perspective, I think the biggest one is not investing in change management, and just giving somebody, here's a license, go learn. And there you go. We are a data and AI company, right? It doesn't work that way. It's extremely important that you're investing in change management, starting with leadership commitment and support. I've been blessed with many clients who actually role model this, with the leaders themselves participating in the training, or putting on the leaderboard saying, "Hey, I've completed this training," inspiring others to do that, right? So you need that top leadership to be able to commit and visibly demonstrate learning, and discipline as well. I spoke about customization and personalization. That's important. Tracking completions, making sure people know how do you employ this on a project. Another thing, Victoria, you might take a training and not apply it. I mean, we both know that it's not going to take you anywhere, right? So change management and making sure that you're making this tangible, you're making this sticky is super important.
I love the point around these sort of initiatives have to be championed from all levels of the organization. And I think that's something, just in my relatively short experience as part of the broader Accenture ecosystem, that's something I've noticed and have admired about the organization, is that everybody from CEO and beyond is actively learning and sharing what they're learning, and is really a champion for learning in the flow of work, and the importance that translates back into productivity. So I think a great use case for what you're describing is actually Accenture.
Absolutely. And I mean, I'm 17 years with the firm, right? One of the best things about Accenture is the investments we make in learning. I mean, we've been through, economics ups and downs, but I can say Accenture always has invested in learning, because unless we are skilled, we're not able to provide the best service for our clients. And people do take the time. Our CEO takes the time. So if she can, then I definitely can, right? So
Yeah, yeah, and it works like that. It's contagious, and
it is
everybody is
contagious.
learning. It lifts all boats, so it's wonderful. Um, so let's shift to a scenario. Going back to the points you've made around the fear around AI and what it could mean for people's roles. So let's take a scenario to make this tangible. Um, so an average banking employee, 6 years away from retirement and working in a nationalized bank, might rightly say that the generative AI academy will replace that individual in the workplace. Um, that individual may be fearful that their pension will be at stake if they are replaced before hitting retirement. Why should somebody like this be open to generative AI?
That's a great question, and it's definitely something which plays on people's mind. Um, the way I've looked at it is that if you don't do it sooner, the faster you'll get replaced, if you know what I mean, right? Um, if you're not able to keep pace with the latest technology developments, impacting your role, impacting your organization, you're not able to support the top and the bottom line of the organization, right? I mean, we all are living in a world where there are lots of economic challenges right now, shifting governments, there are two wars that we are, facing right now, right? So companies are constantly looking at ways in which they can become more efficient. And technologies like data and AI provide a great solution to help add more efficiencies, right? Add more to the productivity of the organization. So I feel that as employees, it's our almost like a moral duty or obligation, right? It's a key skill that you need to learn to be able to do that. I also want to mention that, we often think that perhaps baby boomers or the older lot, if you will, might not be open to Gen AI. Let me tell you, some of the most enthusiastic learners I've met are people in that cater because they understand and they're excited about using these technologies, right? Because they know that this will perhaps add 10 more years to their careers, if you will. I was speaking with I think somebody from one of our colleagues from Udacity as well. But if we go back, we will also find a lot of our learners on Udacity are people of much more older age group, if you will, right? So I feel that learning has no age, and we see a lot of people adopt to these technologies because that's the need of the hour, and that will actually add a lot more years to your active working life.
Actually, we recently launched an AI skills, AI at work survey, and found that the the highest adoption of, for example, like generative AI technology, is not actually the youngest part of the population. It is kind of that millennial population. So yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up and have seen similar things as we have in that space.
Absolutely. And in fact, I feel, Victoria, that there's a very beautiful contribution that can happen. As we know, with the aging workforce, they're going to exit the workforce, right? Something which generative AI is still building, if you will, is a lot of the tacit knowledge. Now imagine the experience, the tacit knowledge of a experienced individual, if you will, married with the new ideas and the analytics, etc., with this technology offers. That's such a powerful solution. So in an ideal scenario, we need to marry both these to be able to add, right? And I think a lot of organizations are doing it and coming up with these solutions because, I mean, I don't think, I mean, all the scenarios have been built. I don't think all the efficient, I mean, there's just so much work to be done.
Definitely. And then maybe, so we talked about this specific example. Maybe if there's anything else you want to add to, if it makes sense to just like extrapolate from this example of this specific persona who's going through this specific scenario of approaching retirement and fearing their job may be replaced by generative AI, and how it's important for that individual's mindset in that moment to shift. Zooming out more broadly, what should be someone's mindset as new technologies emerge and the sort of initial and perhaps in some cases uneducated response to that technology is, oh no, my job is at risk, or the way I do what I do is going to change and that's a bad thing. What is a mindset for somebody to sort of like approach these changes with?
I think this is a great question, and it sounds easier said than done, but being a lifelong learner is the key to having I would say, fruitful, workforce experience, if you will, a good, fruitful career, because we don't know what new technologies will come in, right? Like, Gen AI just kind of, it was there for a while, but the uptake has been quite huge, if you will, right? Data also is there's just so much work that needs to be done over there. So being a lifelong learner is something that I would say. I'll give an example, another example of a real example, actually, of a woman colleague who was actually she felt stuck in a job, right? Very competent, very strong, but the role that she was in, it was very operational in nature, Victoria, and that kind of after one point in time was like, where's my career growth? What else can I do, etc. And that individual felt motivated to take some of the online trainings that are offered by Udacity, right? You take the training, upskill yourself, and with that, you're able to perhaps, add a better productivity element to your work. You're perhaps able to, do a lot more data analytics work, right? You're able to provide better analysis to your clients, to your customers, right? Resulting in positive, outcome for the team. You're also perhaps taking some soft skills training. I need to mention this. Soft skill training still continues to be a top learning topic. And that will not change because we still need humans in the workforce even more as we're working in this digital world, right? So this individual perhaps takes some training on how to communicate better, how to engage with global customers better, and becomes a better professional, if you will, somebody who's adding a lot more value. And just that one spark of being a lifelong learner, being a self-starter, taking an initiative, that gets observed by the leaders. You are able to add better outcome, and it helps you, number one, like, perhaps move the career ladder, but also brings in a lot of confidence, right? And honestly, Victoria, this can happen at any age. It could happen to somebody who's been, 5 years in the company or 20 years in the company. So I think having a lifelong learner mindset is super critical.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Okay, I want to shift a little bit to talk about sort of why we're here, the backdrop of why we're here, which is women in AI. So as part of this series and as part of the name indicates, you are a woman operating in the field of AI and technology, and have had a 17 year so far, successful career in doing so. So want to hear from you about diversity and how you feel diversity has driven innovation in the types of projects that you work on at Accenture.
Um, I'm extremely lucky to be at Accenture because I think it's a wonderful, wonderful place for everybody, and particularly women employees. And look at us, our CEO is a woman, our CFO is a woman, our Chief AI Officer Lan Guan is a woman, right? So I'm just surrounded by amazing women trailblazers. Um, Personally, I feel that this discipline is gender agnostic. Having said that, yes, our career is slightly more demanding, being in the consulting, right, technology discipline of fast-paced data and AI. Um, I think the number one thing is being inclusive with the intent, if you will, right? And Accenture has a very solid inclusion and diversity framework with which we try and make sure people belong to the group, meaning that they feel that they're valued in that group. And at the same time, they feel very unique, meaning that they're valued for the differences that they kind of bring in. And I feel I'm a great example, right? I definitely feel that with my colleagues and amazing leaders, I belong here. But at the same time, my background is very different. I'm a psychology major, I'm a talent expert, and I have a passion for data and AI. And I got that chance to be able to build myself that expertise, if you will. It was hard work, but I always had somebody supporting me, right? So that was great. Through those experiences, I think, like I said, like few things which Accenture does, which support us, is with the learning programs, right? So within our business, we've got a program such as, a career reboot program where women who've been out of the workforce, they're trained, they're skilled in different disciplines, and they can rejoin the workforce, which is tremendous. We also have several programs where high potential women can be identified, right? And for example, the high tech career women, right, who get coaching and training, they're able to work on special projects to demonstrate their skills and expertise, and then they get nominated for leadership roles, if you will, right? So I think that it definitely helps. Um, but I also feel like the mentoring was great. I remember the year I was up for my managing director role, and we had this powerful players, women, kind of, some fancy name, but what that did for me was amazing because we had these amazing senior leaders who spoke with you in very real terms, like, all right, this is your career ambition. What are some of the things which are holding you back? And believe it or not, thing which was holding me back, and this sounds a little crazy, but I'll just share. But I was very clear that, all right, you need to give me this role, this title, only if I deserve it, right? Not because I am an inclusion or diversity candidate, if you will. And then my boss just looked in my eye and he was like, why else do you think we would give you that title, right? You absolutely deserve it. I guess the point I'm making is that for every woman, high performing women as well, there's some things which hold us back. Oftentimes, maybe the feeling that maybe I'm not good enough, maybe, right, I'm getting this because I'm a diversity candidate. But I think leaders who have faith in you, got your back, who reinforce you, and just remind you that don't forget you're awesome, right? It just is really great. So yeah, that's been my experience, and it just continues to be my experience here.
That's wonderful. And maybe for those listening in who work at other organizations, some cues for what you all can do to help embrace more diverse talent, specifically when it comes to data and AI, but just more broadly, cultivate that talent and make sure that diverse talent wants to be at your organization and work for the leaders that you employ, and wants to sort of follow your mission. So I think Accenture does a great job, as you just you're a testament to the great job Accenture does around that, as your experience has been really positive.
As well. For example, LGBTQ, we're celebrating this month people with disabilities, if you will, or differently abled people, right? And I think technology gives you great opportunities in terms of also including people in different areas, neurodiverse candidates as well, right? So the different ways to look at it, think about it, not just from an equality perspective, but also equity. How can you create that equity, if you will? So yeah, it's been really great.
Wonderful. Okay, last question for me, and then we'll shift over to Q&A. So question for you. I like to end all of these sessions with the same question, because I know that there are a lot of people, specifically young women on this call, live or who are going to tune in later, who are at the beginning of their journey with AI. What advice would you give to, let's specify, a young woman who's at the beginning of her AI journey or her AI career? What would you tell her? Where should she start?
I'd say she needs to start with signing up for an excellent course at Udacity. That's an excellent starting point. But truly, right? I think, and it's funny because just this morning I sent my son a list of trainings that he needs to take, right? I mean, start young, start fresh with diverse perspectives, right? So I would say be a self-starter. There are enough and more resources out in the world for you. May take advantage of that, right? Take this online training just so you know whether this field is there for you or not. And the beauty in the world of data and AI is that there are different disciplines. You could be data scientist, data engineer. You could be someone like me working in the talent space in data and AI, right? So different disciplines. So use this to kind of, do a sanity check, saying that, all right, whether I like it, and then keep progressing. The second thing is work on projects. Very important. Once you work on a project, you know whether you're able to apply the skill or not. So if you're in a role, um, simple things you could do is you could go and tell your manager, hey, listen, I've taken this course on Power BI and I want to use this for my client engagement. Can I help you maybe manage absenteeism in your team? I'm just making this up, right? Or can I help you do ABC? And when you deliver this as a project, two things happen. One is you've practiced what you've learned, and second, your boss, your manager notices, hey, here is somebody who's a self-starter person. Here's somebody who wants to apply these areas, right? So that's number two. Number three, get a mentor or find a mentor who you can role model or who inspires you. And in my case, I've got amazing leaders in our data and AI practice who constantly inspire me to learn and keep doing new things. So find these mentors or role models and try and say, okay, is this where I want to be? Is this the kind of career path? Or are these the things that I want to follow? And reach out, but don't just reach out to say, I want to be your mentee, if you will. Reach out with a very specific purpose. reach out to learn a bit more, reach out to also have share something, give something of value. I always feel, Victoria, mentorship, it's a value added. Mentors need mentees as much. So be very clear to bring something of value to your mentor as well, right? As you move forward. But that's great. And last but not the least, today's world has so many open source tools and technologies and methods that you can take, sign up with a GitHub, etc. Do sign up, because you'll be surprised by how much you can learn from one another. And Victoria, for me, that was a sea of a change, because in consulting, somewhere you start learning that, oh, I know enough. I don't need to work, I don't need to learn as much from others. But with data and AI, the amount of learning you do from others, it's so humbling. And that's the way to be, right? So please surround yourself with people who are like-minded, who can discuss use cases with you, who can discuss applications with you. And trust me, as you start zooming in, the fog will clear off. You'll start seeing different ways in which you can apply yourself and go about. So that would be my recommendation.
That's great. Great advice. Thank you so much, Harsha. And thank you to everybody who joined us today. I'm going to move into QA now. We have some questions submitted from folks in the audience. So I will start with, this is an important question. How do we use AI and still maintain originality in our work?
That indeed is a great question. Um, I have to think a bit about it, but off the top of my head, um, I think I think with with generative AI, it almost mimics the way humans think, but they've not thought of everything, right? They cannot think through, I mean, at least till now, right? The human emotions, a lot of these elements as well, right? So the various scenarios, the contextualization at that scenario is not something which generative AI can possibly, come out so far, right? um, I think it's important that you are able to keep thinking about these problem statements, etc. I think a different way to maybe think about this also is focus on higher order tasks, if you will. So, for example, if a technology or tool can help you with a code, there's no problem in trying to leverage that code, right? And then kind of use it, but to deliver higher order tasks, if you will, right? So yeah, that's how I would think about it. I think human creativity is a large expanse, and there is miles to go for any technology to be able to fully capture it. So, especially when it comes to emotions, contextualization, etc. There's a lot more work to be done. And let's not forget, we have not fully looked at all aspects of generative AI, if you will. We've just explored images and text. There's a lot more, the other sensories also that we need to cover, right? So there's still more work for human ingenuity to keep going.
Yes, definitely. I'm going to sort of paraphrase the next question for you, but what would, based on what you're seeing come in from clients, like client requests, what would you say are the key skills or top knowledge areas that folks are prioritizing when it comes to data and AI, and how they feel like their organizations need to be educated or upskilled in these domains?
Right. So are we looking at the roles and the skills which clients are demanding? Is that the question?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I see a lot of demand for data product roles, if you will, right? So if you are a product manager coming up with new products, something that we are noticing as a trend, and Victoria, it came up in your Udacity paper as well recently, is that a lot of clients still want to build in-house products, right, for themselves. And that trend is going to continue on for cost efficiencies, for IP reasons, right? And various other factors. So clients are looking to build data product teams. So if you want to become a, agile data product manager, if you want to work in different areas related to that, I think that's really good. Um, I think something which is a prompt engineer, great skill to have, right? If you will, there's huge demand from clients on that particular topic as well, right? So good work to be done in there. I also see that data governance And related data disciplines such as data architecture is also something, again, because clients want to build those products, etc. Right? So I think that's something that there's a lot of good demand as well for those roles.
That's great. And we're getting a couple of questions around, does somebody need to, like, if somebody wants to learn these things and to be sort of job ready in one of
Yeah.
these roles that you're describing, they don't need to go through any sort of like traditional education system, right? Like, can you talk a little bit about what's available to people, even just uh, between AI Academy and Udacity or Accenture more broadly? There is an entire ecosystem to support people who are
Yes.
in parts of the world that maybe have less available access to this type of education. So can you talk a little bit about like why people don't need uh, to get this type of learning from a traditional education system?
Right. Let me start by acknowledging Accenture and Udacity because as organizations, we do offer a lot of free resources for the general audiences in different parts of the world. We're committed towards data democratization. So a lot of these trainings are available. For example, we did some research with Turing Institute and especially in the healthcare space, we have come up with use cases examples which can be leveraged for clinical studies, etc. I know Victoria, for example, in the I think Africa's region, right? Udacity does a lot of great work also in the Middle East providing education, right? So our organizations are at the forefront, and on our websites you can find more information. Now, I generally, and this is something which is, I've thought about this. Education is becoming a journey. It's not just about whether you graduated with a, bachelor's or a master's, etc. Gone are the days where you can say, I've got a MBA degree and now I'm done studying and now I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. Doesn't work that way anymore. Education is continuous, and you should not just look at your organization to fulfill that because your organization may serve you based on your role. I think people should be taking, I guess, control of their own learning and learn based on what they want to do, right? Like, for me, I decided that I wanted to work in data and AI. Sure, I had to take some extra courses, etc. But then when I said, well, I want to do this, my firm was supportive, and I was able to jump into different role, if you will. And that's a possibility for most of us. So coming back, don't just look at traditional education. Look at other sources. And today, honestly, there's so many free courses available even from Ivy League colleges like MIT, Stanford. I mean, those are the links I sent to my son as well that, hey, during your holiday break, why don't you take a look at these courses, if you will, right? So a lot of these do exist. And yeah, I think it's about taking some of these courses. Like I said, start at a beginner level, figure out what interests you, right? Figure out what's your ikigai, and then start zooming in the place where it makes more sense for you.
Makes total sense. Yeah. And is it ever, this is sort of a rhetorical question, but is it ever too late to pivot and to get into data and AI? And if somebody were to want to do that later in life or later in their career, how should they go about doing that?
I mean, I think the KFC CEO started his company when he was 65 or something, right? But it's just like to say that there's no, you can start at any age if you will. I mean, I firmly believe that you can learn at any age if you will. I myself, like I was a successful partner and I moved into the world of data and AI, right? So even after good 12 14 years in the area of talent, I made the shift to data and AI. This is to say that doesn't really matter how many years of experience, you can always pivot. And that's true for most of my colleagues, actually. Some of my expert colleagues have worked in supply chain and then they found their space in data and AI, and some of them are leading that space, right? So it's never too late to be able to zooming in into your passion topic. For the people who are just again like starting in, I would say, look at the list of catalog of courses. I think Udacity has a fantastic beginner course. Sign up for it. Invest in yourself. It's totally worth it because then you know whether you like this or you don't like this, whether it's made for you or not. And then start saying, all right, if this is the case, what could I be? Yeah, go to Accenture's website. There are plenty of data and AI jobs, right? Try and envision yourself in one of those roles and apply for them and see if this is something that you'd be interested in. And I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun. you will learn a lot. And I think life, like I said, is a learning experience. So surely it'll be a worthwhile journey.
Last question for you. The the job market right now is tough. And there are a bunch of qualified candidates that are looking for jobs. How you mentioned earlier projects or demonstrating hands-on proficiency in a certain technology domain, and that may be part of your answer. I think that connects to this question, but can you talk a little bit about how somebody could stand out in this type of environment?
Um, I think for us, it's important, like attitude before aptitude, if you will. I personally have that philosophy, if you will. Um, we've at Accenture, right? Like we've seen uh, as we bring in people, we always want people who are learning. And I want to quote our CEO over here because she said, when I was looking at one of her interviews, she said that the number one thing she looks in a candidate is the willingness to learn, if you will, right? If you can demonstrate that, yes, I'm willing to learn, it could be, this discipline today, like, the AI or, data architecture, but tomorrow you want to work in carbon computing, if you will. And by the way, Victoria, sustainability and sustainable AI is such a great topic to learn and zoom in on as well, right? But again, like you need to then figure out, all right, if this is what I want to do, what are the skills that I need to demonstrate, right? How do I pivot? So I would say if you can demonstrate to employer that you are a lifelong learner, maybe put on your resume the trainings you have taken, talk a bit about, the projects that you have employed, etc. Talk about how you've shifted gears and you're not afraid of the changing ecosystem because trust me, it is going to change. I think that presents you as somebody that, okay, this person will adapt, this person will learn and bring the best for a client. And those are the kind of people would want in our organization.
I totally agree. I love that attitude over aptitude. I love that.
Yeah.
Um, well, that is all I have for you. Thank you again, Harsha, for joining us today. And thank you to everybody who joined in and who in the future will join in. We hope that you found this conversation as valuable and as engaging and as fun as I did. Be sure to stay tuned for future installments of the Women in AI webinar series. And please, please follow Harsha to stay up to date on all of the incredible work she is doing at Accenture and beyond. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.